Guys, what's going on? Welcome in. In this one, I am joined by IngravenVids. You guys are already probably subscribed to them, but if you're not, definitely go check them out. The link is listed down below, of course, in the description box. What's going on, man? Thanks so much for hopping in.
Hey, no, I appreciate you having me on, man. First, before we get into it, how you feeling about the Jets offseason? Specifically, before we get into the whole offseason, how you feel about Justin Fields?
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. I mean, going from Rodgers to Justin Fields, to me at least, it's like it's a nice change of pace. Because like the age is one thing, but the whole mentality is just different. It feels, and granted, we haven't seen a game or a practice yet, but just with Justin Fields so far, it's just like young, humble, hardworking approach, like keep his head down and work, like type of mentality, as opposed to like storylines and articles and leaks. And it's just it was one thing after another last year, but
yeah.
Dude, like I know we're gonna talk about Brandon Stevens here, but I gotta say, like, quick little side tangent. I love the Ravens draft, bro. Starks was my favorite player in the entire class.
Oh, really?
Mike Green falling around too. I thought that was a sweet pickup. Some later day 3 finds. Like, how you feeling about the Ravens draft class?
No, I like it. I like it, and it looks like the Ravens, they really went for versatility in this class, and also immediate impact too. You talked about Malachi Starks. He's somebody that's for the right here, the right now, and also for the future. Because we're probably going to lose our other safety, Darius Washington, after this year. Mike Green, it's like we had 2 first-round picks because Mike Green, he dropped a lot, obviously, because of all the allegations and all of that. So I would think that would get cleared up because I don't think the Ravens, with everything that they had going on with Justin Tucker, I don't think that they would draft a player in the second round if that was going to be an issue moving forward, like Mike Green. So I'm looking forward to them for sure. Another one of my favorites from the draft is Aeneas Peebles. Him just being he's technically a defensive tackle, but he's like a D tackle, just a straight up D lineman, and he's really good at pass rush. And also LaJohntay West, the wide receiver. Now, I don't think he's going to make a big impact as a wide receiver in year 1 because of everybody that's in front of him. But I think in a return game, that's where he could have his biggest impact. And we've been needing a returner for a while.
Yeah, it feels like I mean, really, like Baltimore, like I feel like I'm always like looking at the Ravens draft classes every year, saying to myself, like, how are the Ravens doing it? Like the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles are kind of the same way. It's just like every year they're coming away with like great players. But yeah, this season specifically for the Ravens, I felt like they tackled huge positions of need, safety and edge, like again, those two, top 2 picks, but they're getting just, instant contributors, great value picks as well. Like I was a big fan of Wester as well. Longer being the corner from Rutgers late. I think, you looked at what he was able to do at the college level. They asked a ton of, man coverage, zone coverage, off, press, like he just did it all. And I felt like he kind of just feels like a Raven. But speaking of the cornerback position, dude, the Jets went out and they signed cornerback Brandon Stevens from the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm not going to say no one saw it coming. I feel like maybe there were a couple Jets fans that did see something like this coming. 3 years, $36 million. My personal take on corner was, you know what? We're going to eventually have to pay Gardner a ton of money. Michael Carter, the slot corner, is one of the highest paid slots in football. They're probably going to pass on a corner in free agency because we were linked to like maybe bringing DJ Reed back or Carlton Davis or someone like that. Yeah. But I'm thinking like, nah, they're not going to go out and drop, 10, 11, $12 million on another corner when they're going to be investing a ton of money at the position anyway in probably a year or two. I figured that they were going to hit the draft like second round or something, but that's not the case. They signed Stevens. It came out of nowhere. They made it happen early in free agency. What was kind of your initial maybe reaction to that signing?
I was a little surprised, but a lot of times we as Ravens fans, we joke and we call the New York Jets, we call them the Baltimore Jets or the New York Ravens sometimes because a lot of players, even the old GM, oh my goodness, Joe Douglas, yeah. He even went over there, but there was Rex Ryan, there was recently, obviously, Brandon Stevens, CJ Mosley was another one. And they, of course, have been more over the years, but a lot of former players, they end up going to the New York Jets. But when they signed Brandon Stevens, I said, oh, okay now. I didn't think he was going to get no crazy cornerback money. I mean, $12 million per, that's solid. And he is technically a starting corner. But I was just like, oh, okay, Brandon Stevens going to the Jets. I hope he does well. And I hope that with the Jets, he does better than it ended in Baltimore, because he's such a tricky player, man. And just to take you through the story of who Brandon Stevens is, in college, in high school and college, he played running back, and then he ended up switching to safety. So then when he got drafted by the Ravens, first he got drafted as a safety, and they really, really loved him. And we could tell that they really, really loved him, because even in preseason, they had him out there with the starting defense, and he was out there playing a lot. We were like, okay, this guy, Brandon Stevens, he brings them versatility. So then I think where things started getting tricky for him, they moved him from safety to corner. Then they moved him from safety. Then they put him at corner again, and they kept flip-flopping him. But then they ended up holding him down at corner. So early on in his career as a cornerback, he was very sticky in coverage, but he just had a problem sort of tracking the ball, making a play on the ball. But then 2 seasons ago, Marlon Humphrey, he's dealing with injuries off and on. He's missing a lot of time. We have Brandon Stevens. We have the cornerback. I'm trying to remember his name that we had 2 years ago. I ain't even gonna waste time trying to remember his name because I can't think of it right now. But Marlon Humphrey was out. So a lot of us as Ravens fans, we were concerned, like, oh my goodness, our secondary is going to be pretty bad now since our best cornerback is out. But Brandon Stevens was amazing. 2 years ago, he was amazing. He was lights out. He was locked down. He was shut down. He would shut down Jamar Chase. He had a whole TikTok that somebody made of it. He was amazing 2 years ago. And we were like, oh my goodness. So if we still got Brandon Stevens another year, and we're going to get Marlon Humphrey back. Then they ended up drafting Nate Wiggins. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton been doing this thing. We got our Darius Washington. We're like, oh, our secondary is going to be nice. But Brandon Stevens this year, it was rough. It was really, really rough, because he went back to his old ways. And when I say his old ways, again, sticky in coverage. There's not going to be many times when you see Brandon Stevens just straight up get beat. Where you just see him just straight up get burnt by a receiver, where a receiver is so open on him. It'll happen every now and then, because it happens to every corner every now and then, but it's not going to happen very often with Brandon Stevens. He will be right there on that wide receiver, but his issue was tracking the ball. His issue was just making a play on the ball. And I thought, all right, maybe early on, it's early on in the season, he'll get it fixed. He'll get it right. And then the Ravens defense as a whole, throughout the first 10 weeks, it was really, really bad. The pass defense was all kinds of bad. I know it's only 32 teams in the league, but it felt like the Ravens pass defense was ranked like 36 overall, because that's how bad they were. But it was rough. But then they end up benching Marcus Williams. They end up cutting Eddie Jackson. They dropped Kyle Hamilton and Darius Washington. They had them play 2 high safety a lot. So that changed the defense, and there was a big turnaround. They also benched Trenton Simpson. So there was a lot of turnaround with the Baltimore Ravens defense. So I was thinking, okay, maybe that's what Brandon Stevens needed for him to turn around. But it would be still the same thing. Marlon Humphrey will be doing his thing. Our rookie Nate Wiggins, he will be doing his thing. Kyle Hamilton, Darius Washington, everybody around him will continue doing their thing. But Brandon Stevens was always sort of the weak link on the defense. And it would be like, all right, it felt like if a team needed a first down, if they needed a big chunk play in a passing game, they will look, scan the field, go through their progressions, say, oh, there goes 21, Brandon Stevens, and they will throw it his way. Whether it would be a big completion, whether it would be a penalty, because those happen a lot with him too. So that's why it was just frustrating, because it's like, man, if only he could fix this one thing, he will be such an amazing corner. And the frustrating part about it is that we've seen him have that one thing fixed, but I'm not sure what happened this year. Because initially I was thinking, all right, well, maybe it's because we got a new defensive coordinator. Because for the past couple of years before this past season, we had Mike McDonald at defensive coordinator. He became a head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm like, okay, maybe that's it. But after the first 10 weeks when our defense was so bad, but then at week 11 and from then, they were great, Brandon Stevens was still a weak link. He still struggled. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess that's that. I guess this is who he's going to be for the Baltimore Ravens. And we continue to hope that things will get turned around. We continue to hope that things will get better, but they just never did. And he'll make plays here and there, but overall, it was just rough. We just knew, like, again, if an offense needed a first down, they were going to most likely be targeting Brandon Stevens. Now, but with him, I know from what we just said, it sounds like it's all bad. again, it's not. If the Jets coaching staff can somehow find a way for Brandon Stephens to get his head turned around, because that's something that he didn't do a lot, to get his head turned around and find a better way to make plays on the ball, then he'll be A-okay. Because again, like I said, he's sticky in coverage. But another great trait about Brandon Stephens, he is not afraid to go head up with anybody. He is not afraid to get physical, whether it's with a wide receiver, whether it's with a tight end, whether it's with a running back, whoever it may be. Brandon Stephens is an extremely physical player. And another thing, too, he's very healthy. He does not miss time due to injury concerns. He does not have any injury problems whatsoever. So that's been a great part about his career, and also his versatility. And this is how I wish the Ravens would have used him a little bit more. Instead of just having him at outside corner, move him to the slot, have him play some safety, have him blitz. And they did a little bit, but not that often. They just primarily had him as an outside corner. And I feel like they probably should have just moved him somewhere else. But I feel like the Ravens were like, you know what? Our record is good. Our record is great. And we got this far with Brandon Stephens being the outside corner. Let's just ride it out for the rest of the season. Let's just ride it out for the playoffs and see how it goes. But even in the playoffs, like, there was a time when they did actually move him. They had him in a slot. And the Bills, they needed a long third down conversion. And guess exactly where they went to. They went to Brandon Stephens. He wasn't at his normal outside corner position. He was in a slot, and they went right at him, and they got a big completion, big first down. But yeah, he was just it was rough this season. But hopefully with the Jets, it can be a lot better.
Bro, you answered like 4 of my questions, just like right in there in that description right there, dude. But no, I think one thing that is really, really, really interesting that you mentioned was, Stephens is close. He's sticky in man coverage. He's always around. The pass catcher. Because if you listen to Aaron Glenn talk, and I don't know if you got the press conference or not, but basically Glenn was just, it wasn't like a shot at the Ravens coaching staff or anything like that, but it's not along the lines of he was playing out of position or anything. It was more so, we feel like in our style with the Jets, he might be more productive.
Yeah, I hope so.
We've seen him do it before, but the consistency wasn't really there with Baltimore. So it's really, really interesting to, because I'm not going to lie, I haven't gone back and watched every single defensive snap in Stephens' career, so it's interesting to get your kind of take on that and to kind of hear something similar to Aaron Glenn as far as, hey, you know what, like, we've seen the highs, we've seen him go out there and actually make plays and have success, and he has the body type, and we all know he's a speedster. We also know he's versatile. By the way, I feel like all the, like a staple of the Ravens defense is like versatility.
Right.
Even on like the defensive line, like, man, the Ravens just are like absolute like gold standards on defense, no matter who's calling the defense or McDonald, going back to, Rex Ryan. The Ravens defense is just such a, I just love it, man. It's just such a pill. Like, if you're a fan of defensive football, like, you got to like look at the Ravens defense and just be mesmerized every single year. They play so just sound, and it's just like a well-oiled machine. And so, you're kind of looking at the timing of the Stephens move. It was early in free agency. So it's like multi-year deal, a lot of money, relatively speaking, like guaranteed starter money.
Yeah.
And we're having like this Aaron Glenn kind of, a former DB, someone who played at a really high level, good, maybe resume or backstory with developing defensive backs, whether it's safeties or corners. And again, it caught a lot of Jets fans off guard. A lot of fans were actually like angry about it. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, this is so much money. And also there kind of felt like there was a reaction from Ravens fans themselves on social media. Like, what are the Jets doing? Like, like, how much money are they giving Stephens here? Which I think maybe didn't really infuse a lot of confidence in Jets fans who who didn't really know what they were getting in Stephens. But I think for me, man, and again, I love the breakdown. It's super, super in depth. I think for me, I'm opting for Aaron. Like, I'm just gonna trust Glenn. He knows DBs. He knows what they look like. He knows how to develop them. I would have more of a concern with the signing if Stephens maybe had, because when I look at Stephens as a player, like, he has that versatility. He has like that physical makeup. He has that speed. And like you're saying, like, we've seen those high moments from him, but it also kind of feels like the low moments are pretty low as well. Like, you're talking about like Josh Allen targeting him and whatnot. So I'm hoping he gets a little bit more, or we can see some more consistent play. I mean, our defensive coordinator is Steve Wilkes, and he has a background in DBs as well, DB development. So yeah, it should be interesting, man. But like I said, you kind of knocked out all my all my questions in your description of it. So, bro, I
Yeah.
appreciate you hopping on, man.
No, for sure, man. And again, with Brandon Stevens, he's right there. He's so close, and you hate that for a DB because he's right there, one step away from being great. He's so close because all he got to do is learn how to turn his head around. That's it. Once he starts turning his head around and making a play on the ball, oh, it's game over for real, man. Y'all will have two outside lockdown corner. I know Sauce was a little down last year, but I'm sure he'll bounce back and be fine. But y'all will have two lockdown corners. It'll be a beautiful thing if he can just get his head turned around and make a play on the ball. And obviously, easier said than done. And saying, "Oh man, he's so close," but that's the only thing he got to fix. That is a huge thing to fix. But the hope that I think Jets fans can have with Brandon Stevens is, like you mentioned, that Aaron Glenn said, they've seen it before. He's done it before. And we've seen it before as Ravens fans, and we were like, whoa, where did Brandon Stevens come from? And we loved it. So it's there. It's just a matter of getting it out of him. And one last thing I will say, too, that I think has something to do with him getting signed for that $12 million per year. I think that the Ravens, they felt like, and they were hoping throughout the year, like, all right, Brandon Stevens, he's going to get it turned around. He's going to get it turned around. But then it got to the point where, like, they were like, you know what? We just going to live by, die by Brandon Stevens. Whatever happens when he's out there, all right, cool. But I think Harbaugh and company, I think they ended up just leaving him out there so they could end up getting a compensatory pick if he got a big enough contract, which he ended up getting. Because if they bench him and then somebody sign him in free agency, they may sign him in like the second or third wave of free agency when it gets past the comp pick formula. But no, they left him out there for the whole season. They left him out there for the whole playoffs. And then it ended up working out because the Jets signed him to that $36 million deal for 3 years. So I think with the Baltimore Ravens, with Brandon Stevens, they were playing the long game with having him continue to be out there. Because even literally right before free agency started, Harbaugh, he was speaking, and he said, hey, we might even get Brandon Stevens back because he's real versatile. He can play nickel corner for us. He can play outside corner. And when he said that, a lot of Ravens fans got upset. They were like, oh, man, no, we don't want Brandon Stevens back. He shouldn't be back. But I told Ravens fans, like, hold on, no, it's business. Harbaugh, he got a good talk game. He knows what he's doing. It's just business. So he's just talking Brandon Stevens up so he could attempt just one last push to push Brandon Stevens' market up. So I think it worked out. But again, like I said, hopefully it does work out for Brandon Stevens with the Jets. I want to see him do good because, again, it's there. It's there. It's just a matter of bringing it out of him. So hopefully Aaron Glenn, again, like you mentioned, being a former DB, Steve Wilkes specializing in that, hopefully y'all can get it out of him.
Cool, man. Cool. Yo, I appreciate the breakdown, man.
Sure.
Super in depth, super just highly detailed. Love it, man. And again, for everyone watching, IngravenVids link is listed down below in the description box to go check out. Hopefully we'll catch you guys in the playoffs, man.
Oh yeah, that would be fun, man.
In 2025. All right, man. I will catch you later. Thanks so much for everyone hanging out and watching. And as always, go Jets.